Hola, ¿cómo están? Soy Laura, and here I'm going to try to introduce to you las gramáticas 4.2 y 4.3, el verbos de cambio de raíz. This presentation is what I usually do in my regular classes, and you get to see it, stop it, and see it again as many times as you want. I suggest you to have a lápiz a papel when you're watching this presentation so you can write down questions and also vocabulary that is very important for you to know. Every word that is here, you should know it. Otherwise, write it down, look for the meaning, or ask me in class. So I told you before that the árboles, to me, represent the verbs because all the verbs have a tronco and a terminación, an ending. So the verbs, as you know them, the infinitives, they are ar, ir ending. We have three groups. So that's how you learned how to conjugate. When you have the ar, you know that the endings are going to be o, as, a, amos, and, depending who is doing the action in the sentence, who is the subject. And then you have and ir. If they end in ar, ir, those are the names of the verbs, all right? So here's the tree. We have el tronco, and then the ending, the way you conjugate. So that follows usually a pattern. So here you have an example. Like I said, this is what you already know. Bailo, bailas is an example of the verbo regular, okay? This is regular. So it has the tronco regular, and then the ending regular because it is a regular verb. But now we are going to see verbs that have a little thing. That thing is these verbs got pregnant. So they are I call them the pregnant verbs. So that pregnant is a deviation in the very straight tronco that they had. So that deviation makes the verbs have better intonation. So we're going to see examples later. But think in something, and all this group of verbs are going to have a deviation, a change in a certain part of the tronco. But the good news is that they are not going to suffer any change on the ending. So the endings are exactly like you learned them. A, o, as, amos, a, o, es, hemos, en, o, es, imos, en. They are exactly the same. The desviación, see the little belly, is only en el tronco. And those deviaciones, like I call it here, there are in three groups. One is e that changes, so the e is here, and instead of being empieza, it's going to be empieza. The other change is the o that changes for ue. So instead of being durmo or dormo, instead of being dormo, it's going to be duermo. And the last change is e that changes for e. Instead of being pedo, which means farts, by the way, you're going to say pido. Okay? So those are the three groups of deviations. There is something very important that you need to know. There is no change whatsoever in nosotros form. So all these verbs are going to be 100% regular in the nosotros form. So this is something that you see, one thing less that you have to remember. Now there are a lot of verbs in this two grammar sections, and all these verbs are going to be in the final. You will have to use them in your next composition and in your next oral presentation. So let's see. I made this little chart. I'm going to give you a copy of this in La Clase, but you can print one. That's my suggestion. Print one and make and fill it out. Okay. So the changes, I divided this a little bit differently from the book. So here's the group that is an ar. So you know the endings o, as, a, amos, an. And this group, put three examples. Negar, they might not be in the book, all right? So you can change it for another one that is in the book that is in the same category, which is e that changes for ie, and they are verbs. So I did one over here where the e en rojo changes for ie, all right? Pienso, piensas, piensa, pensamos, y piensan. So this is the first group. The second group is the o that changes for ue. So you're not going to say almorzo. It's an adverb, no? You're not going to say almorzo because you know that this has a deviation. This verb has a deviation. So you're going to say almuerzo, almuerzas, all right? Jugar, you see that even though this group is O, changes for ue, jugar, in the old time, it was giocare, giocare. So it was, it had an O. Later, the O changed for U, but it's still in the same category. The U is going to change for ue, juego, juegas. So these two groups are for the are verbs, are. So the endings are going to be those. And then I put these two changes also, these two deviations, I put them with er. So you know how to make the ending, all right? O, es, e, hemos, en. And I have querer, perder, defender, that change, where changes the e for ye. Volver, poder, llover. Llover is to rain. And since you do not rain, or I don't rain, or we don't rain, or they don't rain, the only conjugation that you're going to do is this one, the third person. And then the ir. Ir is special because it has three different changes. All right? So it has the e for ie, preferir, sentir, sugerir. The o for ue, morir, dormir, morir y dormir. And the e for i, pedir, and seguir. So the e changes for i. Pido, sigues. All right? So this here has all the conjugations. Right? So I already did all of them. We're going to do it in class. You can stop here and try to use and make sentences with this. Remember, this is a video. You can stop it at any time. So I'm going to move on to this ejercicio. So this is what you need to do for our next class. There are 11 sentences, and here you can see the options. You have to fill this out with the verbs, the correct form of the verbs coming from this list. All right? We're going to talk a little bit more in class. Nos vemos pronto.